We have had one day of ASUN men's and women's basketball. So you know what that means. It's time for the ASUN Game Day podcast. It's time for me to overreact. I mean, we've had one day of games, and now I have to act like I know everything about Atlantic Sun Conference basketball. We know everything right now, right? Of course we do. There's nothing bigger going on in the world right now on this day, which we're recording this on a Tuesday, November 5th. In case you catch this later and want to think back and see what else was going on around on this day, not much. Just ASUN basketball, ASUN Game Day podcast. I am William Hall. Looks a little different in here for those of you who are viewing. Now we know we have all the viewers that listen to the podcast. We know how that works here on this podcast, but we're in Jacksonville, Florida now with the Atlantic Sun Conference moving down, and then the ambiance, the feel of the podcast is just a little bit different. Again, William Hall, I'm here. We have Patrick Catazone in the building producing this thing now. I'm going to try to ease him on this side of the camera. Not that he's reluctant or hesitant. No, I think he's ready to go. He might just push me out of the way and just jump in here at any minute. So be prepared. My time on the podcast might be short-lived, but for now, let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, we had one full day of games already, and we got a handful of wins across. I mean, we've got wins from EKU. We got wins from Queens on the men's side, Jacksonville, Stetson, Austin Peay, Lipscomb, North Alabama, North Florida. And then in women's basketball, we also have wins from Bellarmine, Central Arkansas, and North Alabama. I mean, it's time. It's here. We've been waiting on this since early March. We've been chomping at the bit. We had tip-off just in October. We kind of got prepped, ready. That was like a teaser, but we're back at it now in full swing for ASUN basketball. So taking a look at what happened in yesterday's games, starting in women's basketball, I will shout out the Candy Whitaker era at North Alabama has started off with a win. They go on the road, take out UT Martin, and I think that's a strong sign for what this team could do this year. I mean, they only won 4 times on the road last year in the entire season. It took until December until they got a road win, and this year, game 1 on the road, getting it done. You love to see it. You love to see it. And Central Arkansas picking up right where they left off with a trip to the ASUN Championship Final. They looked dominant. They looked every bit of a team that is ready to repeat and possibly push for that regular season title and the tournament title and that automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. Now, switching gears over to the men's side, Lipscomb, J.O., double-double, 30 points in the Bison's road win against Duquesne. Also pulled down 10 boards. Like, I know we missed him last season, but he's looking like he's back with some unfinished business, and Lipscomb was predicted to be number 1 in the poll. They got J.O., they got Will Pruitt. Coach Acuff is there. Like, I think this team is might live up to the hype. Now, again, I'm overreacting. This is one game in, but why not? That's what makes it fun, right? We also touched on North Alabama women. North Alabama men went out to Colorado and put it on Air Force. 24 points from Jakari Lane, who, I mean, flirted with the Player of the Year last year. Jakari Lane is Jakari Lane's that guy. He is him. And, I mean, he combined with Dallas Howell for 10 of UNA's 15 three-pointers they made in that game. I think North Alabama, they made it to the semifinals last year. I think they're set up to have a great year. They obviously, as I talked to, Coach Tony Pujol at tip-off, they got Daniel Ortiz coming back into that team that was already dangerous. I think when Ortiz gets back into the groove, UNA could really turn some heads. And looking back on the first day of action, got to talk about North Florida. First ever win against an SEC program. They got their first P4 win since 2015. They had 4 people scoring in double digits. They had 30 points from the bench. Like, North Florida went and got it done against South Carolina. But what else can you say? Like, what a statement to come out that way. And And I think that's just setting the tone for what we can expect from ASUN basketball this year. I think we've got a lot of teams that have got a lot to prove. They want to push for that championship. I mean, looking at on the men's side, before we get too long, congratulations to – I know we haven't said it on the podcast in this format, but congratulations to Donnie Jones at Stetson winning that first men's basketball championship last year. Carl Smesko and women's FGCU continuing that great tradition of that program. But, with men's basketball, it's kind of wide open. And not to say that it's a foregone conclusion that FGCU wins women's, but you kind of look at the top of that. Everybody knows who you're aiming for on the women's side. It's no secret. You want to, challenge FGCU. Men's basketball, I kind of think is kind of, wide open. I mean, you've got Lipscomb in the mix. You've got Austin Peay, North Alabama, North Florida. I mean, these are all teams that we're talking about. Like, Central Arkansas has a new coach. What's that going to look like? West Georgia's coming in. They could shock some people. I know they did lose to Mississippi State, but again, that they were competitive in that game. And then you've got, Stetson looking to repeat. So I think that's just the excitement is there, looking from top to bottom on the men's side, especially. Like, there are a lot of teams that can be in the mix, want to be in the mix. So we're just getting going. So it's going to take a moment. Got to pay some bills. Today's podcast is sponsored by nobody. Sorry. Fill in the blank. We'll be right back, and we're going to take a look at some rankings.
From the bluegrass of Kentucky, the Arkansas River, to the beautiful beaches of Florida. From the bustling streets of Nashville to the soulful sounds of Muscle Shoals and its vibrant cities. Fueled by growth, the Atlantic Sun operates in the fastest growing region in America and broadcasting in over 20 million homes. We're everywhere you want to be, with access to 9 of the nation's top 80 media markets, including an impressive 6 in the top 50. Our 12 member institutions provide every collegiate experience, from public to private to faith-based. All of our member institutions are located in the top 30 states with the most rapid growth, including 8 members located in the top 6. From the beaches to the mountains, the Atlantic Sun is the destination.
We are back, the ASUN Gameday podcast, and now it's time to talk rankings. Now, I know over the years, power rankings have been a thing that I've done, and I'm gonna bring them back, but just not yet. I'm not gonna overreact that much. I can't go that crazy after one day of games, and I mean I could, but we won't do that. We won't do that. I want to take a look back at our preseason media polls for men's and women's basketball, and just taking a look just for the opportunity to look at things. I mean, we had Lipscomb. They were picked 1 in our media poll. I think that's a solid pick. EKU at 2. I mean, EKU was our regular season champion last year. I know it lost early in the postseason, didn't make a strong run in the tournament, but I can't argue with EKU there. Austin Peay at 3, FGCU at 4, North Alabama at 5. I think that's a little low. Stetson 6, North Florida, Jacksonville at 8. I think that's a little low. Queens 9, Central Arkansas 10, Bellarmine 11, West Georgia was 12. This is the men's poll. I could be completely wrong. A lot of times I am. I don't think West Georgia is going to be dead last in our rankings. Again, I could be wrong, and I can't tell you who I think is the worst team, who's going to be 12. Obviously, with 12 teams, somebody has to be 12. I just look at these rankings, and I don't – West Georgia at 12 just – but I get it. I understand they're coming in. You're not really sure what they're bringing to the table. I mean, champions – they're coming in that way. I don't know, how that carries over, or what our coaches will feel about that. They were also last in the coaches poll. The media obviously sees them the same. When I look at that, West Georgia dead last, I'm not sold on that. Looking at the women's side, FGCU, I get that. Central Arkansas number 2. I think, seeing the year that Central Arkansas had, it's no surprise that the media thought they were number 2. Lipscomb 3, Stetson 4, EKU, Austin P, North Alabama, Jacksonville, North Florida, Bellarmine, West Georgia, Queens. I tend to agree a little bit more with the women's rankings, but after seeing North Alabama, they were picked in the median 7. New coach, new mentality going. Like, I think they could end up being higher than 7th in our rankings. And Bellarmine at 10. I know I just said I kind of agree. I think Bellarmine's a little low. I think Bellarmine women's basketball has a chance to really this year elevate and push. And at 10, I think they're better than a 10. I think they're better than a 10. But, again, Patrick, where did you have them? Do you remember off the top of your head? You voted in this thing, so, I mean, you got some stake in this. Where'd you have Bellarmine?
I think I had him around 10.
Around 10. So maybe I could be the one that's wrong. And I'm fine with that. I own my faults. It's fair. It's fair. Can't win them all. Can't win them all. Speaking of can't win them all, there is an ASUN SoCon scheduling alliance. We are 0-1. We have plenty of time to turn this thing around, though. It's just one game. So I had a chance to sit down with our commissioner, Jeff Bacon, at our ASUN basketball tip-off. That was beautiful, wonderful event hosted by Queens University in Charlotte back on October 14th. Sat down with the commissioner, kind of talked about the ASUN SoCon scheduling alliance, the importance of this, and just what this entire scheduling alliance can mean and what it means in the bigger landscape of college athletics. So let's go to that sit down I had with the commissioner. Give us some thought about where you think the ASUN SoCon scheduling alliance, like what that can do for us as a conference.
I think it's critical. That's the word I'm going to choose, critical right now, to, as a conference, try to find ways to help our institutions and our coaches. And we do that in a lot of different ways, but one of them is helping them find quality basketball games on your home floor. That is so important and critical to winning basketball and to being not only a good conference, but success during the season for all of our schools. Mm-hmm. So when we have the opportunity to come together with a conference like the SoCon, who also has incredible leadership, it's been an amazing partnership. Their athletic directors have been spectacular. So the fact that we were able to bring that together, and each team in our league is basically getting 2 games a year, with a couple of exceptions because of some funny numbers, but to give that many games to our conference, 20-plus games a year, and to do it with a league that shares so much in common with us and leadership that's so like-thinking or like-minded as we are, is really great. And I'm excited to see how that goes. I think we need to build on it, too, though. Mm-hmm. It's not enough anymore to just go out and get a couple of games here and there with another conference partner. We're not reinventing the wheel with this. Mm-hmm. We're not the first league to do this, right? I mean, this is a pretty common thing. This is kind of like the basics. Like, okay, step 1, let's go out and form a partnership that makes sense. And we've done that, which is great. But step 2 and step 3 and step 4, how do we grow this, especially with today's college athletics landscape and what's happening? I think conferences working together is going to become more and more important. You're going to see it more and more. In a world where we're still competitive with each other, but there's a real realization, in my opinion, taking place right now that, wow, we need to do this differently. We need to rethink college. I'm really spinning off on you here, man. Sorry, but
let's go.
We need
in my mind, I'm just throwing stuff out there that we can.
Yeah, we can go anywhere.
Later. Yeah,
but I mean, we live in another world now, and continuing to think about it the same way is just lunacy. So, anyway, I really like the SoCon partnership. It's been great. Love those guys over there. But I really look forward to trying to use that as just a stepping stone towards a different looking future for us as a conference and as Division I.
Yeah, I would, just with the popularity of women's basketball, I would assume we're obviously exploring options to do the same thing.
Yeah.
To get the women that same sort of
opportunity. We have been actively exploring opportunities on the women's side since I got here. 18 months ago or so. It's interesting, and what we're trying to do is solve problems. And on the men's side, there's been a real problem of getting games. It's, for whatever reason, in men's basketball, it's been very difficult for programs, especially good mid-major programs, to go out and find games. And so that's a problem that we're trying to help solve. Mm-hmm. On the women's side, for whatever reason, they seem to have less of a problem finding games. So our kind of MO with our women's coaches is let us know how we can help you. And if helping you get games is something that can help, we'll work on that. If we need to leave you alone and let you coach and you've got this, which they do, then that's fine too. We'll leave you alone. We're not here to interrupt what you're trying to do. So we've been looking at it on the women's side. I think we're a little more picky on the women's side. It's a little bit different atmosphere on that side of it, but I'm hopeful that we can find something in that space too. Not only to help them now, like we just talked about, get some games, but again, as I think about the future of what we're trying to do down the road and what we want to look like and feel like and the experiences we want to provide, and making sure that we in the Atlantic Sun Conference are situated for the future of Division I athletics. I keep saying that, right? I mean, you can hear the buzzwords that are starting to come out of my mouth. It's just really important that we are thinking ahead and positioning ourselves. So, women's basketball, and by the way, holy heck, we're pretty darn good at women's basketball in this conference.
We are, yeah. Always great to get to talk to Commissioner Bacon. He's a friend of the podcast. We'll call him that. Just, he's a friend of the podcast. So just looking into the future, what we got, some matchups to watch. We've got FGCU, their first game. They're playing on the road at Davidson. I know, as we're recording this, that game hasn't happened. By the time you hear this, the game will have happened. Hopefully we're looking at a 1-0 FGCU team. Austin Peay's at Vandy on Friday. Love to get that win. On the men's side, at Lipscomb at Arkansas on Wednesday, the start of the Calipari era. Let's go ahead and just mess up that debut. The Bisons get it done. Rooting for them. Rooting for Jacksonville at Florida on Thursday, and then North Florida at Georgia Tech on Sunday. See if UNF can go 2 for 2 against P4 opponents. And just looking around the ASUN, I know, this podcast, it's a basketball podcast. We talk basketball, but we are in our fall championship season. To not forget about that. Our women's soccer championship, we've already had a great week of games. This week, we're heading into our semifinals on Thursday. We got Lipscomb versus Central Arkansas. We have EKU playing FGCU. Both of those games are taking place down in Fort Myers. And our final from the women's side is going to take place on Sunday, also in Fort Myers. So looking up and wrapping up a great season of ASUN women's soccer. Men's soccer tournament is beginning this week. We've got first-round games on Saturday. We've got Queens is playing Central Arkansas at DeLand, with the winner of that game playing Stetson next Monday. We've got FGCU and Bellarmine. They're playing in Jacksonville on Saturday, and the winner of that game is playing North Florida on Monday. So we're just getting rolling with this thing. We've got 2 weeks left in the regular season for volleyball. Just last week, we crowned cross-country champions. We had EKU as a team win on the men's side. We had Lipscomb women's team take the women's cross-country title. We had Brian Bett from North Alabama win runner and freshman of the year on the men's side. The first individual ASUN champion in North Alabama program history. So just there's a lot of exciting things going on, along with basketball getting going. So it's that time of year. We love it. It's the little kind of little crossover we get in the fall, but some things are winding down. Some things are just getting going. Mainly at this point, the things that are getting going are ASUN men's and women's basketball and this podcast. We are back. The energy is here. Looks a little different, but we're going to keep it going. I'm excited to where we go. And before we close things out, I just have to take a moment to address a friend of the podcast that we lost recently, head coach Amir Abdul-Rahim. ASUN Coach of the Year 2 years ago, turned around that Kennesaw State men's basketball program, took them to the NCAA tournament. Most recently was down at USF, their men's basketball coach, had that program going in a great direction. Obviously, we did lose coach. he had a huge impact on a lot of people across college athletics in the world. So I'm blessed to have been one of the people who was in contact with Coach. We'll cherish that, remember that. Rest in peace, Coach, and love wins.